I think I might have possibly just been to my favourite place on earth. I'm currently away for the weekend in Shropshire, and we made the visit to the town of Hay. Now, if you've not heard of Hay, every year they have a literary festival there, but I'm sure if you are a book lover living in the UK, you have heard of Hay. But I was so shocked at what it was actually like. Obviously, I knew it was like a book town and stuff, but it's this tiny little town, and almost every shop is a bookshop. So as you can imagine, I was in absolute heaven and bought quite a few books. Me and my boyfriend also loves books and book shopping, so we were like little kids in a candy store racing around the town trying to get into as many bookshops as possible. There were so many secondhand ones which we loved rooting through. We found some really cool editions, and it was just the best time of my entire life. So here are some clips of me at Hay. So as you can see, these bookshops were just honestly a slice of heaven. So I thought I would show you the books that I managed to get yesterday in Hay. Now here are the bags. So I did a bit of damage, I would say, but some of the books were really reasonable because obviously they were secondhand, and we just got some amazing editions that were just so cheap. I also got some new books as well, so I will talk you through them now. So first of all, I will show you the secondhand books that I got. I only got two. Well, one's my boyfriend's, one's mine, that we'll both read them. And they are some Stephen King books, and these editions were just so cool. It was in this tiny little room packed from floor to ceiling with secondhand books, and you had to rummage through them, and we saw these editions and we're like, oh my gosh, these are so cool. So the first one is It here. How cool is that? And then the second one is Cujo, I think that's how you say it, and this was my absolute favourite. I just think that cover is so cool, and you just don't get covers like that anymore. Like, you never see this sort of thing anymore. And this RRP'd for £2.50 back in the day, so I was so happy to find both of these books, and I'm so excited to read them maybe when it gets around Halloween time. But yeah, super happy with those two secondhand books. And then I will take you on to the new books that I got. So all day I was looking for some secondhand John Steinbeck, because you might know John Steinbeck is one of my favourite authors and I want to read everything from him, but I couldn't find any secondhand ones, and I'm sure they were there, and there were just so many books to rummage through that we just didn't have the time. So I got a new one, and this is Sweet Thursday by John Steinbeck, and this is a second book to Cannery Row. Now if you watched my video where I read 5 books in 5 days, I read Cannery Row and absolutely loved it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, one of my favourite books of all time. And this is a carry-on from that, so I'm so excited. It says, return to the scene of Cannery Row. Steinbeck brilliantly recreates its bawdy, high-spirited world of bums, drunks and hookers, telling the story of what happened to everyone after the war. There are colourful characters, old and new, all united by love, laughter and tears. So I'm so excited because I loved all the characters in Cannery Row. For those of you who don't know, Cannery Row is like a little sort of street like on the seafront. And I remember describing it as a real sensory experience. Like he really described all the sights, sounds, smells. And it just talks about this sort of motley crew of people. There's like a scientist, a brothel owner, a general store owner, this group of men who live in this like dilapidated house. I just absolutely loved it. All the characters were so endearing. So I am so excited to delve back into that world because I have missed it. So I'm going to try and get to this one very quickly because yeah, I absolutely love Cannery Row, and if it's anything like that, I'm sure I'm going to love this one too. So I was so excited to find this one. Then the second book that I got is a Carson McCullers book, Clock Without Hands. And I actually didn't realise this book existed. I thought I'd read all of Carson McCullers' books. So when I saw this one, I was for sure going to buy it because I love everything that Carson McCullers writes. All of her stories are set in like the deep South America, which I just love that setting. I love her writing. It says here, in a small town in the American South, 4 men, young and old, consider their past and their futures. J.T. Malone, a lonely middle-aged drugstore owner, discovers he is dying and tries to atone for his misspent life. The aged Judge Clane resists integration and longs for the old ways of the South, while his idealistic grandson Jester is drawn to Sherman, a volatile blue-eyed black orphan in search of his own identity. Gradually they will discover that their lives are inextricably bound together. Through their interlocking stories, Carson McCullers explores prejudice, secrets and redemption with both humour and poignancy. So I'm very excited to read this. I just love Carson McCullers' writing. I love all of her books. So really excited to read this little one. And it's only £5.95 for a new edition, so I was very happy with that. Then the next book that I bought, and as soon as I saw this author, I knew I was going to buy the book no matter what it was about because it was my #1 favourite book of last year, and that was The Trees by Percival Everett. So when I saw another book by Percival Everett, I just simply had to have it. Yeah, it was my #1 read last year. So I am so excited to read this book. It says, Walla Kittu is a brilliant professor of mathematics. He is an expert on nothing. That is to say, he is an expert and his area of studying is nothing, and he does nothing about it. This makes him the perfect partner for the aspiring villain John Sill, who wants to break into Fort Knox to steal a shoebox containing nothing. Once he controls nothing, he'll set the rest of his plans for domination in process, or so he thinks. In the process, Walla Kittu learns that Sill's desire to become a literal villain originated in some real all-American villainy related to the murder of Martin Luther King Jr. As Sill says, Professor, think of it this way. This country has never given anything to us, and it never will. We have given everything to it. I think it's time we gave nothing back. This sounds so interesting, and I really can't sort of gauge how the story is going to go, what it's going to feel like to read. But Percival Everett's last book, The Trees, which I absolutely loved, was based around the real life person Emmett Till, and this seems to be based around the real life person Martin Luther King Jr. So I love how he interweaves that into the story. So I think I'm going to like this one. It sounds a bit wacky, which I love. I love a wacky book. So I am really, really excited to read this one, and hopefully I love it as much as The Trees. So then finally, the final book that I got was Margaret Atwood, Oryx and Crake. And I have been eyeing this book up for a little while now. So when I saw it, I thought I'll just get it. I love Margaret Atwood books. Her book, The Blind Assassin, last year was again one of my favourite books. So I definitely want to try and read as many books from her as possible. Again, this one sounds a bit strange and a bit wacky, but I'm really excited to read it because at the moment I am reading or trying to read the full long list for the Women's Prize for Fiction, so I feel like the choice of books has been slightly taken away from me for now. So these wackier books I'm so excited to read after I finish reading the long list. But this book says, pigs might not fly, but they are strangely altered. So for that matter are wolves and raccoons. A man once named Jimmy now calls himself Snowman and lives in a tree wrapped in old bed sheets. The voice of Oryx, the woman he loved, teasingly haunts him, and the green-eyed children of Crake are for some reason his responsibility. So as you can tell, it does sound a bit wacky and I'm just not sure what it's really going to be about, but I am so excited to read this. I love Margaret Atwood's writing, so I'm sure I'm going to love it. So they are all the books that I got in Hay, and to be honest, I'm already dreaming about the day that I can go back there. It was just the best place ever. So if you haven't been to Hay and live in the UK or live outside and are coming into the UK, I highly recommend you go there if you are a book lover, because it is just an absolute dream. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.